Director of IIT Delhi. I joined IIT Delhi in the year 2016, and prior to that, I was at IIT Bombay. At IIT Bombay, I spent almost 20 years as a student and then as a faculty member. And if you look at the role of engineering in shaping India's future, or my contributions, or what I have been working on, kind of things. So, problem. So if you look at it, I started my career from a small remote kind of a village from Telangana. I am from Kolhapur, which is a small town, and with about 10,000 people. At that time, when I was growing up, it was about 5,000 people. So from that remote place, Kolhapur in Telangana, is what I started my career with. I studied in Telugu medium until my 12th standard. So until my 12th, I was in Telugu medium kind of a program, and then after my 12th, there were not really many options for me other than taking the local examinations. The local examination we had at that time for engineering was MSET kind of an exam. So I took that exam because that was in Telugu medium. And for me, for example, the JEE and JEE Advanced, these exams were never an option because the JEE exams are still conducted only in two languages, the English and Hindi. And as a result, the JEE was never an option for me. I did not even know about IITs. In fact, until my 12th, I would have vaguely, heard about IITs, but I had no idea what IITs are or anything like that. And after my 12th, so I took that exam, the local exam, went to a local institution in Telangana. So I graduated from there. And during my BTech days, I came to know about IITs. I heard about IITs. So, like many of you, I also prepared for the examination. So I sought admission in IIT Bombay at that time for my MTech. I joined MTech microelectronics at IIT Bombay, and that was the turning point of my life. So my journey as an academician, as a researcher, and as anything which I can see as important, started after I joined IIT Bombay for my MTech program, and I spent 2 years there. That is where I came across some of the finest people, uh, and even the education, the quality, the labs, everything impacted me very significantly. And after my MTech at IIT Bombay, I decided to continue. And after that, I never actually left the IIT system. In a way, I came back to the IIT system. So after my MTech, I was sponsored by a German fellowship to do PhD in Germany. Then I went to Germany, but even that wouldn't have happened if I had not joined IIT Bombay for my MTech. And then I went to US for my postdoctoral research after a PhD from Germany. And I had a very short PhD in Germany. My PhD I could do in Germany in 2 years' time. That was probably the shortest by German standards. So in 2 years, I got a degree in Germany, doctor engineer degree. Then I went to University of California at Los Angeles for my postdoctoral studies, and then I came back. By the time IIT Bombay was keeping track of me because I was a good student in MTech program, and the person I worked with at IIT Bombay, Professor J. Vasi, so he in a way was in touch with me. I was also in touch with him, and when I got a kind of a offer from IIT Bombay, I left everything I had in US because I had a good opportunity. I had many opportunities in US to continue and do well, but I decided to come back in 1998. That is when I joined IIT Bombay in August of this same month in 1998. So the 22 years ago, and I never looked back. Once I joined IIT Bombay as a faculty member, the one thing which happens in IIT system is, of course, the quality is there. Some of the people I met in IITs, whether it is IIT Delhi or IIT Bombay or IIT Madras, I think all the older IITs are at the same level, despite what we keep claiming that I am better, you are, all that doesn't matter. I think the five IITs which got originally created during 1955 to 1965 kind of a time frame, all of them give and take are at the same level, despite whatever we may claim about our own institutions, don't believe in all of that. So the five IITs are good, and in some areas some IITs may be better. In some other areas, some other IITs may be better. That is, you shouldn't really worry too much about those finer differences. And the quality of faculty, I think that is what distinguishes IITs from rest of the institutions in the country today, because we do attract some of the best talent, and because we have these best faculty members, they also create the best facilities, they also do the highest quality research, and all of that happens because it all starts with the best faculty. Now if you talk about students, of course IIT students are very bright, whether it is BTech or MTech or PhD. Now these days the ratios are 1 in 500 kind of a thing in any of these programs you look at. So the students are very bright, but I should say the students are also very bright in NITs. What is the difference between a student in IIT Delhi or a student in an NIT? There is hardly any difference. A student in IIT Delhi might have solved the problem in 10 seconds, whereas a student in an NIT might have solved the same problem in 20 seconds. And as a result, got a lower rank and went to NIT, while this person came to IIT. So that's the only difference. In real life, whether you are able to solve a problem in 10 seconds or 20 seconds is not going to make any difference. So students are students. Everybody has their own merits. Everybody is good in what they do. So therefore, I am not too much into saying that IIT students are better than NIT students or students from other institutions. All good students are good students in whatever institution they are. The only difference is those one on that particular day in that particular exam, how did they fail. And I think so therefore I would take this view that students are good in many of our top institutions. But I must say that IITs have this advantage of having the finest faculty, and because we have these good faculty members, the laboratories, everything gets done, and everything gets built, and things really do very well. So when I joined IIT Bombay as a faculty member, the first 5 years I continued to work on whatever I was working in the US, and I also was a good teacher. In fact, my students would vouch for that. So I always put in enough effort into my teaching. That is also one thing that distinguishes IITs from rest of the institutions. So in IITs, we do give a lot of emphasis to teaching. The classroom interaction, it is unheard of in any of our IITs, where a teaching assistant would go and teach students. Whereas you go to any top universities in the US, you would often have the professors delegating the teaching responsibilities to their PhD students and teaching assistants. But in IIT system, it is something unthinkable. If a faculty member does that, we tend to look down upon that faculty member. So we take pride in our teaching standards, and we take pride in our emphasis to the teaching programs in the IIT system. So classroom teaching is what we do take very seriously. And so I was also a good teacher, and then I started working on research problems. I did very well in my research. I have received almost all the awards, recognitions available in the country, and some of the notable recognitions from elsewhere. So I came from a very small remote village, studying in Telugu medium until 12th standard, and my turning point was going for my MTech program in IIT Bombay. If I had not done that, I don't even know what I would have been. I would have been there somewhere doing well, but whatever I am today, I attribute it to my entering into the IIT system was my postgraduate degree. And so as a researcher, I did initially very well but my problems were mostly what I borrowed from the US experience, because when I was in the US, I was working with many semiconductor industries. So I borrowed some of those problems. Those industries which interacted with me in the US wanted to fund me also when I came back to India, and so they started funding my research, and I started working on those problems. I did very well, and but at some point around 2005, 2006, I asked myself the question, if I want to work for these companies, which are all multinationals from these countries, why did I even come back? I could have as well stayed back in the US and worked on those with those problems and with those industries. So then I started to slowly look at the social problems in India. See, what can we do with when it comes to the Indian problems. So I started to pick up problems from Indian society. For example, one of the very first problems I worked on was a cardiac diagnostic system. Then I started developing an explosive detector, a very low cost explosive detector. Then I started working on agricultural sensors. I have now there is one of my most recent research where I am focusing on developing precision agriculture systems for Indian farmers. So the many of these resulted in startups. I have over something like 44 patents or patent applications. I have 15 issued US patents. 11 of these patents are licensed to industries. I have two startups. So therefore, once I started focusing on the Indian problems, I was able to start companies by with the help of my students. In all my activities, my students are part of, and then we started to develop solutions. And these two companies, if you look at my profile on my web page, you will see that are also doing pretty well and all of that. So therefore, to look at it, the role of engineering in shaping India's future, I think engineering is all about optimization. Engineering is all about finding a solution to a problem, and that is all engineering is all about. Engineering is not electrical engineering. Engineering is not mechanical engineering. Engineering is not chemical engineering. Engineering is all about finding optimum and sustainable solutions to the real world problems. That's what engineers do, and that is what we all must be doing. And the moment you put problem first, let us say you want to develop a solution to the agricultural issues in the country. In fact, Prime Minister has been saying that we need to double the farmers' income. And if we need to double the farmers' income, who will do that? I think the engineers have a major role to play when it comes to doubling the farmers' income in terms of developing sensors for precision agriculture. In addition to developing water management systems for our fields, I think that is where engineers have a role to play. So therefore, always look at engineering as a way to solve problems. That is what we are like gods. Engineers treat themselves as gods because we create things. That is where engineering is separate from any other discipline, and every discipline that way is important. I am not undermining anything, but that is what you need to be doing. And therefore, whichever college you may have gone to for your BTech, doing MTech from a good IIT, I can assure you, will change your outlook in life, will make you very aspirational, and you will eventually, learn something out of your MTech program. So therefore, my strong advice is, even if you have missed out on your BTech in IIT program, it doesn't matter where you have done your undergraduation. Work hard for the gate examination, and try to enter IITs, because that tells you, what is the quality of education, what is the quality of research. And like I said, some of the people you come across in the IIT system, you may not find them outside that. So MTech that way changed my life. I hope it will also change the lives of many of you who are looking at pursuing the education. One of the things that is also often looked at is the deciding the right subject to pursue one's research. I think this is something that you need to go with your heart. You need to always keep in mind that, like what I was mentioning, you know uh, uh, engineering is about finding optimal and sustainable solutions to problems. Now, problems don't have a discipline. Now, if I want to, for example, reduce the if I want to improve the air quality of Delhi, now what subject is that? If I want to double the farmers' income, what subject is that? If I want to develop a handheld explosive detector system, and this handheld explosive detector which can replace a sniffer dog and then sniffs out the explosives, what discipline is that? Problems don't come with a discipline. We have segmented all of them into different domains and all that, and as a result we tend to be ineffective in solving these problems. But if you look at problems, therefore every discipline becomes important. One of the problems we took up at IIT Bombay was to develop a low cost cardiac diagnostic system that involved something like 7 departments at IIT Bombay in solving the problem. There were faculty members and students involved from so many different departments, in solving that. Similarly, at IIT Delhi, there are large problems now where multiple departments are involved in addressing that. So the water quality sensing, developing network sensors to monitor water quality in the country in remote places. All of these problems will require a very highly multidisciplinary kind of an approach. And you should also realize that once you start focusing on problem or a solution to problems, that also opens up multiple opportunities for you. At IIT Delhi, we are very consciously looking at, for example, very consciously looking at this multidisciplinary research or producing students who become job providers rather than remaining as job seekers. You graduate and then look for a job, and if everybody is graduating and looking for a job, then who is going to create jobs? I think the jobs need to be created by some of our graduates as well. For that, they need different kinds of skill sets. And one of those skill sets is about entrepreneurship, knowing about how to start a company, knowing a little bit about finances, knowing a little bit about the multidisciplinary research, identifying the right kind of a problem, building teams, leading teams. So these are also very important now. And we have minor degree programs in entrepreneurship at IIT Delhi. We're also starting a school for entrepreneurship pretty soon. That is one of the things that we are looking at seriously. So therefore, the idea is, if you are focusing on a problem, if you are able to develop a solution, that is the first step to entrepreneurship kind of a journey. For example, at IIT Delhi, we have launched many schemes where students can make use of what the institution provides in order to become entrepreneurs. So we provide funding, we provide space, we provide support from alumni, the mentorship, all of that is provided, so that some of you who tend to work on a problem and who are able to find a solution can eventually become entrepreneurs, and you become the job providers, and take care of the country's future. That is one of the things which we are very consciously doing at IIT Delhi. In fact, IIT Delhi, fortunately, is a leading institution when it comes to entrepreneurship. There are at least 16 unicorns which have come out of the IIT Delhi alumni, out of the total 32 that Indians have started anywhere in the world. So half of them have come out of one single institution here. And that happens when you have a strong society connect. Being in Delhi, one of the advantages is you are very closely connected with all the ministries. Ministries come up with tons of problems, keep posing us problems, saying that I want this solution, that solution, kind of thing. So therefore, you become very aware of the problems around you. Another good thing for IIT Delhi is, next door we have All India Institute of Medical Sciences, who are our neighbors, and there are very close interactions between AIIMS and IIT Delhi. Another thing we have is, we have very close linkages with strategic agencies. From the defense DRDO laboratories, we have at this point of time at least 160 crore worth projects ongoing. And in many of these projects, these are all for India's strategic sector, looking at the future requirements of our Army, Navy, and Air Force. And there are at least 60 faculty members at IIT Delhi who are working on problems which are of relevance to the Army and the defense kind of forces. So I think with that, you get to know the problem very well. You get to appreciate the problem, understand the problem. If you are able to develop a solution, then we provide you all the necessary support, so that you can go ahead and start your own company. And I think that there are at least 100 startups now on the campus, because of the support that we provide. And we also provide support to faculty members, because that is where, if faculty members become entrepreneurs, there are many faculty members now who are entrepreneurs at IIT Delhi. If you get to work with them, you also imbibe that culture, you also know what it takes to start a company, and by observing others doing it, you can also branch out into something like that. So therefore, I think the job seeker, producing students who are job seekers to producing students who become job providers, is, I believe, one of the very important things for our academic institutions. And IIT Delhi is focusing lots of its resources and energy in actually achieving that. So these are some of the things which are happening. And in most of my research, for example, I am an electrical engineer. I'm from the electrical department. My specialization is nano electronics, the nanoscale electronics. And if you look at uh, how technologies are evolving, Even in the Indian case, if you look at what are the technologies which are impacting the country in a major way, what are the technologies which have made a huge difference to the country. If you look at the progression, even you are all young, and you will be having a very active career for the next 40 years or so. What are the things that you need to be aware of? If you ask me, in 80s, for example, in the country, the IT, the information technology, became very important, and so many companies came out of the IT, and India now is a world leader when it comes to IT. Now, while we captured the world market when it comes to the IT sector, then came the biotechnology. India is also doing very well in the biotechnology space. For example, if you look at US drug market, the medicine market, 50% of every second drug sold in the US is made out of India. So therefore, India is also doing very well when it comes to pharmaceuticals and the biotechnology kind of area. So after IT, the information technology, now you have the BT, which is the biotechnology, which is again where we are doing very well. So after biotechnology, then what is the next thing? The next thing that has come about after biotechnology is the nanotechnology. So nanotechnology is the area where I work very closely. For example, in nanotechnology, what is nanotechnology? Nanotechnology is when you have all these materials in the periodic table, right? And when you scale down the particle sizes of these materials to something like tens of nanometers, 10 nanometer, 20 nanometer, the same materials exhibit completely new properties. Exactly the same materials, what you know in your chemistry textbooks is the bulk properties of these materials. But when you synthesize these materials in the nano form, the same materials now start to acquire new properties. That is what nanotechnology is all about. Now, because the materials are now acquiring new properties, using these new properties, can you develop new solutions to problems where otherwise there are no easy ways to solve them. For example, cancer. The cancer treatment is a big challenge because any cancer drugs at a later stage will also destroy the healthy cells. So all cancer treatments are prone to the side effects. Whereas if you can have a cancer drug which can go and destroy only the cancerous cell and not the healthy cells, you can treat cancer. Nanotechnology, the targeted drug delivery, is in a way providing solution to cancer treatment. At IIT Delhi, we have Department of Textile Engineering. There is a very strong group where they are the nanotechnology group in the Department of Textile Engineering, and they are applying that nanotechnology principles to the textiles, the clothes. For example, a technology, nano silver technology developed at IIT Delhi, is now licensed all over the world. Many jeans now that one buys, the trousers have the nanotechnology coatings, where the origin lies at IIT Delhi Textile Department. And IIT Delhi Textile Department also developed PPEs, the personal protection equipment for the COVID. And in all of that, they have antimicrobial coatings, antiviral coatings. Many of them are nano based. So therefore, nanotechnology is impacting healthcare. It's impacting textile. It's also impacting many other sectors now. So therefore, nanotechnology is the third thing that happened in the country, and India is now ranked third in the world when it comes to nanotechnology research. In IT, we are world leaders. In biotechnology, we captured a lot of market. In nanotechnology, in terms of research, we are ranked at the third position. And now converting that nanoscience and nanotechnology into products for the society, that is where there is a lot of work happening in the country right now, and many people are working on it, including my own group. So nanotechnology is the third technology revolution which is going to impact the country in a very significant way. It is still at the science technology level, but the applications are slowly coming up now in the nanotechnology space. After nanotechnology, what? After nanotechnology, it is the cognitive technologies. Whether you call this AI, ML, data sciences kind of areas, the cognitive technologies are going to impact the world in a very significant way, beyond the nanotechnology revolution. And so cognitive technologies is where IIT Delhi is also offering many programs. We're actually creating a new school for artificial intelligence, a new school of AI. We call it Sky, is getting now inaugurated sometime soon. And so therefore, the cognitive technologies is the fourth technology revolution on which now you can you can look at the cognitive technologies as a way to change our lives, the day-to-day lives, and many sectors are going to be impacted by the AI ML kind of technology. Therefore, cognitive technologies is the fourth pillar which is going to impact us in a very significant way. After cognitive technologies, what will come now? I would believe it is going to be the quantum technologies. The quantum technologies are now going to be very important in the future, and quantum technologies are now getting into the curriculum. While cognitive AI kind of things are already happening now, the quantum technologies are slowly getting into the curriculum. Whether it is quantum computers or encryption technologies, using the quantum computers, you can break many of the existing encryption technologies. Now, if one country has access to the quantum technology, if other country doesn't, they can now interfere and look at all our secrets, everything that is encrypted. They can actually unlock them if they have the access to quantum computers. So strategically also, quantum technology is going to be very, very important. Government of India has allocated 8,000 crores for the quantum technologies. There are many initiatives at IIT Delhi also for the quantum technology thing. So therefore, these are the 5 T's, as I would call it. Started with IT, India has done very well. The BT, the biotechnology, India has again done very well when it comes to biotechnology manufacturing. Nanotechnology, NT, that is the third one, where India is now a world leader in the third position in the world when it comes to knowledge generation. Now, converting that knowledge into wealth is where there is a lot of focus. Many startups that are coming up. Therefore, IT, BT, NT is where things are looking pretty good. Then comes the cognitive technologies, which are now very upcoming, and that is where a lot of good things are happening. Then happens the quantum technology. Therefore, these are the 5 technologies where, and these are the verticals, are the platforms. So these are all, to me, platform technologies. They will impact almost every sector, from automobiles to textiles to biotechnology to medicine to anything you name. These 5 technologies are going to have a major impact, and that is where the future of jobs will be, and that is where future of innovation needs to happen. And the innovation, when you look at an academic institution, there are 3 things that we do. One is education. Education is where you go to the classroom, all the knowledge is available, you use that knowledge and impact and impart that knowledge to students in a very structured way. That is the education. Now, education, what will change? I think there is going to be a lot of hybrid kind of technologies in education. Education mostly remained offline. A classroom kind of learning is what we were focusing until now. And because of COVID now, it has all gone online. When COVID ends, which will be another 6 months from now, I would like to believe that then the education will become more hybrid. It will be a little bit of classroom, but a much of it also will remain as online. The flipped classroom kind of approaches, where you take courses or the classes in your rooms, you come to the classroom only to ask questions, only to have a discussion. The discussion can be with your peers or with your instructor. I think this flipped classroom kind of a model is what many institutions will adapt now. So therefore, the hybrid way of teaching will become very popular post COVID. So therefore, education will undergo many changes when we embrace the hybrid kind of a model. The second thing that educational institutions do is knowledge generation. That is where you do research. You push the boundaries of knowledge, you keep innovating on new things, you keep developing new things, and that is what research is. So therefore, our academic institutions are also doing very well when it comes to knowledge generation, and IITs are at the forefront of knowledge generation. The research students at IIT Delhi are more than the undergraduate students now. So therefore, we are now a postgraduate institution. There are 3,500 PhD students at IIT Delhi right now, and IIT Delhi research is very highly cited. We were ranked 39 in the world in QS, for our research impact. So a lot of research happens now out of our institutions. So therefore, education is one part, the knowledge generation is the second part. The third aspect now, which is becoming very important for us, is the innovation. Now, innovation, how do I define innovation? Innovation is creating wealth out of this knowledge. That is what innovation is. Since we were not very keen on the innovation until recently, everything used to end only with the knowledge generation. But now that innovation is becoming very important, how do I make use of this knowledge that we are generating or the getting generated all over the world? apply it to real world problems and find solutions to some of these problems. So therefore, the innovation is in a way inception to impact. That is what I would define innovation as. And innovation happens through patents, because if I have found out something new, I would like to protect that IP, and I would like to take it to the society through a startup or by collaborations with the industries. And like I was saying, innovation is becoming very important for us. And so for us, the filing patents therefore has also become very important. In the year 2019 at IIT Delhi, we filed 153 patents, and in the year 2020, we are expecting at least 200 patents to be filed from IIT Delhi alone. So every year, 150 to 200 patents getting filed, and now we are also looking at technology licensing in a major way. Last year, IIT Delhi earned about 1 crore rupees from technology licensing, and this year we hope to touch at least 3 crore rupees, because IIT Delhi has done very well in finding solutions to the COVID problem. If you look at the COVID scenario in the country and look at technologies that have come out of IIT Delhi, you see IIT Delhi technologies in the prevention space, in terms of PPEs, in terms of disinfectants and all of that. IIT Delhi startups, IIT Delhi technologies, using the IIT Delhi technology, have put out something like 4 million PPEs in the market in the last 3 months alone. So that's a kind of an impact, with our startups we are able to make now. So therefore, prevention is one place where IIT Delhi has done very well. There is also a Prakriti website created at IIT Delhi, which is closely monitoring the spread of COVID in the country. Then after prevention comes the detection, the diagnosis. In the diagnosis part, IIT Delhi is the only institute in the country today which has a technology, diagnostic technology approved by ICMR, which has come out of our Kusma School of Biological Sciences, and it's the cheapest RT-PCR kit. And with that, they are able to now add 2 million extra RT-PCR tests per month in the country. So therefore, on the detection side also we have done very well. Then the third part is the treatment. There are many faculty members in our bio schools who are all looking at, even in chemical engineering department, who are looking at finding medicines for the COVID, even looking at the Indian traditional medicines and see how effective are they in terms of the arresting the virus spread and all of that. Ashwagandha, for example, through scientific research, we showed that is very effective. The green tea we also showed is very effective. So, and there is a lot of research happening around the high performance computational facility at IIT Delhi. We have a supercomputer with about 3 petaflop kind of capacity, and there are at least 15 projects now which are running on our supercomputer to find on the COVID related problems. I think these are all, I would call innovation, and that is where institutions now are beginning to focus more and more, and that is where our startups are helping, our students starting their own companies, our faculty and students together starting companies and taking these IIT technologies to the society. I think is where the future of our institutions will lie, and that is where IIT Delhi is putting a lot of emphasis right now, and is also doing pretty well. Of course, when you are looking at excellence, there is no measure. Excellence is unbound. You can, it's not that if I reach this, then I'm excellent kind of a thing. There are, everything only happens to be a milestone, and you have, huge aspirations there. So we are getting better and better, and things are looking good. And I think this is what you get to see when you come to IITs. And I think I strongly urge you, when you are looking for an MTech, don't look at MTech as just a way to find a job. I think beyond. I know some of you may have family constraints, family requirements to take up a job. Do that. I think you need to take care of your family. But those of you who don't have those kind of compulsions, you should pursue higher education. You should not stop with only MTech. You should even go for PhD and do very good PhD, develop a solution to a problem, and use that knowledge to create wealth for the country. Because the at the end of the day, the e-commerce kind of companies are not wealth generators. They only distribute the wealth probably, but the wealth creation happens through technology, and that is where finding a solution to a problem becomes very important. And that is a technology which will create wealth for the country, and that is where our postgraduate students need to play a very big role, because you have the deep knowledge in a particular area. Now using the deep knowledge that you gain in a particular area can you now develop a solution to a problem? That is what we seek out of our MTech and PhD students. That is something which we are very consciously doing. I think that is going to be my advice to all of you. And I have also served at various institutions all over the world. I have held visiting faculty positions at least a dozen places in many countries, and I think everywhere, I mean, I have taught in other countries too. I can tell you, teaching in IITs is indeed a very pleasant kind of a job, because we have students who ask questions. To me, to go to a class where students are not asking questions, it makes the whole process very boring. So therefore, and that is one thing I enjoy teaching IIT students, because our classrooms are almost like discussion forum, and where you go, you say something, students ask questions, you answer, and then you go in a different direction. In the process, teachers also learn while interacting with the students, and while teaching, you also learn. That is how IIT professors keep getting better and better, because students teach us in the classroom every day, and that is what knowledge is all supposed to be. And our goal is to produce students who are better than us. If you are not producing students who are better than us, then it's a degrading function. Then the whole quest for knowledge will come to zero. And now if our students are better than the teachers, and that is how it's a growing function, and then that is how the knowledge grows. That is how the world becomes a different place and a more interesting place. So as a teacher, I've always believed that my students, I need to produce students who are better than me, and because I don't want to produce students who are inferior, that after some time there is nothing left for us to talk about. So I take pride in the achievements of my students. I have done everything possible to help them grow better than me, and that is what every teacher in IIT system or anywhere in the world or anywhere in the country needs to aspire to produce students who are better than us. And I strongly believe, and I think I would like to see many of you also become teachers at some point in life, and also do the same thing. So this is all what I have for you, and I can take some questions now. So, yes. What does the one of the questions is, what do these competitive examinations test? I think it needs to test the understanding. It should not test the memory. If a competitive exam is testing memory, I would think it's not very well designed. And a cognitive exam should only test your understanding. In fact, when I give tests to my students in my class, I tell them, if there is a question for which you don't have an answer, but if that answer required you to memorize some formula, then you can just write that, I needed this formula for solving this question. I don't remember it, therefore I am not able to solve it. I tell my students that I will give you full marks for that question, because if I am testing your memory, I'm not a good teacher. I should be able to test your understanding of a subject, and so therefore that is what competitive exams need to do. And I would like to think that at least the gate examination papers are set very well, and I have heard good things about whether it is JEE advanced or the gate exams, where IIT faculty members spend a lot of time in setting the question papers. Now I would like to believe that that is how it is. The other question is how to be a good engineer. I think, to me, to be a good engineer, you need to have that social awareness. If you are socially unaware, if you don't even know what are the problems that are happening around you, you can never become a good engineer. A civil engineer might be very good at constructing a dam, but if the civil engineer, a bridge, if the civil engineer doesn't understand the impact of the dam on the environment, the impact of the people around the dam, who are all making their living, I don't think that civil engineer is a good engineer in my definition. So I think we need to be socially aware while we are good at our own subject, but we need to see, because sustainability is very important now. I can develop a solution. For example, the PPE example, the COVID PPEs, the mask, for example. Now everybody is using a mask. Now if IIT Delhi is developing a technology where these are all disposable masks, I need to worry as an engineer. If I am developing a disposable mask, what will happen to this mask? When somebody disposes of, where will they go? Where will they end up Are they biodegradable? Are they degrading the environment around? I think these are the concerns I need to have as an engineer. So I would always recommend engineers to look at sustainable solutions. The complete cycle of your product you need to worry about. When it is disposed of, is it biodegradable? That is a very important question that we need to ask. All masks that are put out from IIT Delhi, I can assure you, are all reusable masks. You can wash them 50 times, and many of these masks are also completely biodegradable. I think that is what as engineers we need to be. We need to be socially conscious. We need to be environmentally friendly. In our approach. I think these are the qualities that are becoming more and more important right now. How do I changing very fast? Huh? How do I go back? Yeah. So go down. See that there are many questions. Let me stop it there. Stop it one place. I think this whether you want to do MTech or want to take up a job after BTech. Why do you need to do MTech? I think if you have done BTech from any second tier institution in the country, I would advise you to do MTech from an IIT because that exposes you, that gives you that brand. And I would also advise you that if you do MTech, also keep the option of pursuing PhD open. Don't be close-minded. By having this close kind of a mind, you will not go too far. I think minds are like parachutes. They will function only when they are open. And if you have, like I said, family constraints to take up a job, support your family, I think you must do that. There is nothing that I can say anything against that, which is what you need to be doing. But if you don't have those kind of constraints, if you can study further, I advise you that you must pursue higher education, become good at one technology, either through MTech or PhD. Once you become good at one technology, and then look at even the option of converting that knowledge into a product, into a prototype, or look at becoming an entrepreneur yourself. The entrepreneurship can happen at any level, and much of the entrepreneurship is deep tech innovation. The deep tech innovation can only happen when you become good at one subject in your own subject. And so therefore MTech and PhD are becoming very important requirements even for entrepreneurs. So therefore I advise you, keep your options open, and take decisions when you have all the information. My biggest concern that I see from many young students is they have their options closed. They want to do this after this after this, and they haven't even explored all the options available to them before they have taken the decision. And because they have taken the decision very early on, they tend to be very close minded and very narrow, and as a result they don't really go too far. So my advice is, keep an open mind, learn about all the options, and then take an informed decision. That is also where you can consult people in that space. The renewable energy sector is renewable is not just solar. One question is, what are your views on the renewable energy sector of India? I think eventually, like I said, sustainable technologies is very very important, and renewables play a very important role in that. The coal, for example, is what causes even the air pollution, a significant cause for air pollution. So therefore renewables are very important. But when you think of renewables, don't look at only the solar. There are multiple other technologies, where you need to develop the renewable things. So there are many interesting things you can do in the renewable technologies. At IIT Delhi, we have a Center for Energy Studies, and which focuses entirely on the renewables for power sector. We're done now. Okay. So thank you very much. It was a pleasure speaking with all of you. Thank you very much.